So this is video 2 in Let's Make a Journal My Way. There's many ways to make a junk journal and I've done a lot of them, but I enjoy this style for myself. So I've got the cover, I've got one pocket. I haven't decided about the back yet, but I don't always put a pocket in the back. And now we're going to choose the pages, the signature, and this is just going to be a single signature, so just one signature, and I usually stick to 16 or 17 sheets of paper, and I like my first sheet or sometimes the second, and I'll explain what I mean by that later. I like it to be full size and something attractive, like some scrapbook paper, some kind of image, something with colour really, and something that is fairly sturdy. So I've searched for yellow quite a lot because this book is yellow, and I found this old digital from Antique Papery. It's the Nagasaki kit, which I don't think is available anymore, but you might be able to find it, I don't know. I printed it for some reason, whatever reason, on very flimsy paper. So I'm actually going to back this. And I've got this cream, sort of vintagey cream paper. Could use tea stain paper, but mine is on quite thick paper, the tea staining I've done. And I don't want this to be too thick, but I do want it to be a bit sturdier than this, and I want it to be cream rather than white on the back. So all I'm going to do is use a glue stick over the whole of this. I'm not going to make you watch me because that would be very dull. I'm going to glue stick this as much as I can, the whole sheet, so it's sort of laminated together. So let me go and do that and then I'll be back. So I've glued this down, and now I'm just using my bone folder to make sure it's fully adhered. And then I'm cutting it down to the size I want my pages to be. And I particularly want the first page, or as you will see, possibly the second page, to be like the full size that we can measure everything else from. So it's around 5 1/4. I want it close to the edges, by 7 7/8. So 5 1/4 times 2 is 10 1/2. By 7 7/8. So let me cut that down. Okay, so I've cut that slightly bigger than 10 1/2 at the moment, and I just want it to dry before I try and fold it. It's got a bit there that's not glued. Anyway, let's go for it. So I'm folding this in half, just gently. And all I'm doing here is just making sure that we don't get any bubbling up, because it is a laminated sheet. It's not too bad. So this is going to be our sort of stand page, our what we measure everything else from. So you can see from this that it's not bad. I like my pages to be really close to the edges, top and bottom. I think it's going to be a touch long that way, so I'm just going to trim this down. This time I'll use a knife. Take a smidgen off the top here. That should be pretty well perfect. So it's still pushing forward. I don't know if it's hard for you to see this. It's going to sit in. I'm just going to crease this a little bit more. Won't matter too much now. So you can see what I mean. So that's going to sit in there quite nicely. So once I've got to that stage, this actually measures, yep, 5 1/4, so it's exactly right to start with. We'll carry on. Now, normally it wouldn't be a laminated sheet like this, it would just be a sheet of scrapbook paper, pattern paper, maybe a book page, a thickish page. Because I've used a glue stick on here, in this instance I am going to straight stitch right round the edge, so that I can just be sure that we don't get any curling up edges. So let me do that and I'll be back. So there we are, first page done. Let's just flatten this stitching a little bit. So what you're aiming for is a fairly sturdy first page, I suppose, is what we're aiming for. And that's pretty good. That suits me. So I am going to go now and choose 16 more pages. I'm not going to record while I'm choosing the pages, but I won't do any cutting down or anything. It's quite a subjective thing, really. You'll probably know what sort of papers you like to put in your journals. But what I'll do is choose my 16 pages, so I've got 17 altogether, and then I'll show you what I've chosen, the order I'm going to put them in. There might be a why for that, or there might not, probably not. And then how I trim those down. So bear with me and I'll be back later. So I'm back with my pages, and I've just laid them out in the order that they're going to go in the book. Page 1 is an old envelope. It's addressed to somebody in Paris. It had a very boring stamp really on it, and you couldn't read the date, so I'm not really sure. I think it's 50s. So what I have decided is that I want to, this is what I meant about this being the first or possibly the second page. One of the things I often do is put a small page or an envelope around the first page, and I want to do it in this case because I want to just tone that yellow down a bit. So I couldn't find a yellow stamp, but I found a nice sort of toning greeny one, and that's stuck on there. And it so happened that the postmark that was on the stamp I could match up with what was on the envelope, so it makes no sense, but it's there. So this is our first page, and second page, then I've got tea stain paper, botanical page from a book, an old atlas page, another botanical page of sketches. This page is a bit different, and I'll explain that when I get to putting it in the book, but essentially it's what I call, or what Nick the Booksmith calls, a Frankenstein page. So I joined two together. So it's actually like that, really. Then we've got a bit of an old document. This is a page from another botanical book, and I've used washi tape to make sure that it stays together. It didn't come out of the book very easily. And when I've stuck the washi tape down, I've used a bit of glue there as well to make sure that that stays. Another tea stained paper, some blank ledger paper, page from a children's book, botanical page, another page from a book, another plain tea stained page, another ledger page, and the centre is going to be a botanical page. So put these to one side and show you how I deal with them. So this is our first page, and then we've got tea stain page. Now I could decide to fold this like so and put a pocket on it or a flip out. I'm actually going to keep this really simple this time, not do too much of that apart from that rather strange page which I will show you. So this is going in here, and you can see that it's too tall and too long, and the way I'm dealing with this is literally just to use my craft knife you remember I'm saying to you that this is what I would call a neat journal. I mean, obviously lots of people make them with pages sticking out and all sorts of bits and bobs like that. That's not really my style. So our next page is this one here, folding this, and popping it in here, and it fits nicely within there, so that's fine. This one, I think I'm going to have this side as the first side just because it's got the yellow on it, and I'm going to see, you have to make these decisions as you go along. I think I'm going to cut it down to the height of this, which if you remember is just below 8 inches. It's actually 7 3/4. Let's do that. This page is so long it doesn't fit in my guillotine there, so I'm just going to that's cut down to 7 3/4. Take that off. I'm going to fold this so it's going to fit inside these, but slightly smaller, if I can work it out. This page is cracking a bit, but we'll reinforce that later. So that will go in like that. And then the next decision I've got is whether to chop this off or fold it. And at the moment, I'm going to fold it in, and I'm going to fold it slightly again, just inside this page that I'm using to measure. So that's that one. I've got this scrap which I'm going to keep. Then we've got this page. Which again is fitting in nicely. And then we've got this strange page. I'm going to put this in the book, but this I'm having to work out as I go along. I basically wanted to put this page in, but I didn't want to hide any of the images. This is from a 1920s French magazine. So I am basically going to fold this and hope that it fits in. We might have to just take the edge off, but I'm folding it up to that crease. I've not done this before. And we'll fold that over. Yeah, that's going to be too wide. So what I need to do, and I should have done this before, is take that crease out again. I need to take the edge off. Fold it in again. This time it should fit in here, I hope. It's still a little bit over. Maybe this isn't going to work out quite how I hoped it would. What I need to do now is cut this off without cutting that fold. So we are slightly over our limit there. And then we'll cut the top off. So I might decide, the idea was that you can fold this whole thing out. I might decide to change that, so it's actually quite bulky, but we'll see how we go. The next page is this document. (1928) document. It's going to be a bit tall. I want to leave that bit on there, so I will cut the bottom off in this case. It's actually the perfect width. Again, I want to make sure I don't let's turn it around that way. Next page is this one, which obviously is going to fit in nicely. Just crease that down a little bit. And then we've got a tea-stained page. Sure if my phone will film all of this. Not sure how long it'll keep going. So if it stops, this is just basically how I carry on through to my last page. Again, I am going to cut it off, but I'll leave a section there. And again, I want the top all in there, so let's cut that off. I've got a piece of scrap there. And we've got our children's book page. So I have an old Enid Blyton book. Fits in. Botanical page. Just have a quick look and see what this one. I'm taking a bit off the top and the bottom. Do need a sharp craft knife for this. We've got this little page. Tea dyed. I'm doing this so that I don't have any of that sort of bulging out at the centre, as it's a fairly big signature with these 17 sheets. So the inner pages end up obviously a lot shorter. Less width. So we're down, this one is now just under 5. But that's not something that bothers me. This one I am going to fold it. So I get a pocket. I'm trying to fold it so I get a pocket. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'll do it a little bit shorter. Then our last page is our central page. Have it this way round. So we've got a bit of yellow in the middle. And although that's shorter, I just want to cut that edge off at the top there because it's really rough. Just do that this way. Go in there, still slightly over, so let's just cut that down. And that basically is our signature. So we've got an envelope, this sort of bulky page, which I've said I might change that. there we go. So I'm just going to clear up this mess. Let's pop it in here so you can see in here. That's our basic book. We're going to do a little bit of decorating before we sew the signature into this cover. So I'll be back and show you that.